Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about a movie named That's What I Am. I hope that you enjoy. The film begins with students in an English lesson at California's Jefferson Middle School in 1965. For a term project, Mr. Stephen Simon, the instructor, pairs Andrew Andy Nickel with Stanley Big G Miners, the most infamous misfit at the school. Since elementary school, Stanley has been teased because of his wild orange hair, enormous head on a tall, thin frame, and ears that seem excessively big. Andy approaches Mr. Simon in an attempt to switch partners after learning that he has been placed with Stanley. One of the best kids in the school, Stanley, doesn't seem like a good fit for Andy. Mr. Simon, however, urges Andy to collaborate with Stanley and complete the project on schedule. During lunch, one of the school bullies, Ricky Brown, sprays Stanley with a water gun, making it look like he wet his pants. The other students burst out laughing while Andy helplessly watches from a distance. Later, Andy ventures into the geek corner, a spot where the school's nerds gather to study, knowing that once he's seen there, there's no going back socially. Andy approaches Stanley to discuss working together on the project. Stanley, aware of his reputation and how everyone avoids him to escape bullying, offers to complete the assignment alone. However, Andy insists they collaborate, pointing out that Mr. Simon would likely notice if they tried to cheat. Reluctantly, Stanley agrees. At home, Andy talks to his mother about the project. He wonders aloud why someone like Stanley, who is so different, has to endure so much bullying. Andy's mom thoughtfully responds by saying that maybe God didn't see anything wrong with Stanley and that the real problem lies with those who mistreat him. The next morning, on his way to school, Andy spots Mary Clear, the girl he secretly likes. Despite being smitten, he's too nervous to talk to her. At school, he hears that Mr. Simon recently won a car in a newspaper contest by answering the question, "How can we achieve world peace in 25 words or less?" With just 4 words, human dignity plus compassion equals peace. A bully called Jason Friel later runs across Karen, another kid who shares Stanley's status as an outsider, in the corridor. Jason is terrified because he believes Karen has given him a fictitious illness called Kais. He quickly seeks assistance from a buddy, who quips that the Kais came from chanting. The Kais will continue to do this, but only in front of Karen. Jason returns, chants the words at Karen, and even beats her with his jacket because he takes the advice literally. Karen screams in agony as the zipper on his jacket hurts her, but nobody intervenes to save her. When Mr. Simon hears about the incident, he is furious. Karen ends up with multiple cuts from the zipper, and as punishment, Jason is suspended for a few days. In the next scene, Andy is doing his part-time job delivering newspapers in the neighborhood. He deliberately throws one into Mary's backyard, hoping to get closer to her. However, Mary and her father catch him in the act, leaving Andy flustered and apologizing before making a quick exit. Later, while volunteering at the school office, Andy finds out that Stanley has signed up to perform in the upcoming talent show. To everyone's surprise, Stanley plans to sing a song in front of the entire school. When Morgan, Stanley's closest friend, learns about his plan to perform in the talent show, he urges Stanley to reconsider, warning him that he might just end up being mocked again. However, Stanley stands firm, knowing that the bullies will target him no matter what he does. He's determined to follow his own desires instead of letting fear control him. Later during lunch, Mary's best friend approaches Andy and surprises him by revealing that Mary likes him. Andy feels thrilled but confused, wondering what she could possibly see in him. As Andy and Stanley continue working on their school project, they gradually develop a strong friendship. One day, Jason returns from his suspension and overhears the school gossip spreading a rumor that Mr. Simon is homosexual. In this era, such accusations are scandalous, often leading to severe backlash. Jason quickly tells his parents, who are furious and believe Mr. Simon should be removed from his teaching position. Jason's father storms into the principal's office to confront her, demanding to know if the rumor is true. The principal dismisses it as baseless gossip, pointing out that Mr. Simon has been married and widowed for years. However, Jason's father argues that homosexuals sometimes marry to hide their orientation. He threatens to spread the rumor publicly unless the school investigates and gives him a definitive answer within 48 hours. Despite her respect for Mr. Simon, the principal feels compelled to address the situation with him. Mr. Simon refuses to confirm or deny the rumor, asserting that his sexual orientation should not affect his ability to teach. He makes it clear that he will not compromise his identity to appease people like Jason's parents. In the meantime, Andy intends to take Mary to Steady, a well-known hangout where teenagers frequently go to make out. He even gets her a gift of an ID bracelet. Regretfully, Mary's ex-boyfriend and school bully Ricky Brown learns of it and gets upset. Andy is approached by Ricky, who threatens to harm him if he approaches Mary. He prepares to escalate the situation by punching Andy in the stomach, but Stanley steps in to protect his friend. After Andy vows to avoid Mary, Ricky retreats, intimidated by Stanley's presence. However, Andy can't resist pursuing Mary. Ignoring Ricky's threats, he asks Mary if she wants to go steady, presenting her with the ID bracelet. Mary happily accepts and tells Andy to meet her after school at 3 p.m. For the rest of the day, Andy is too distracted to focus on his classes, daydreaming about romantic movie scenes. During his 6th period gym class, he makes every effort not to sweat, wanting to look his best for Mary. Finally, when the time comes, Andy gathers all his courage and goes to meet her. Ricky shows up and tries to attack Andy, but Mary steps in just in time. She orders Ricky to leave and even threatens to inform his parents about his bullying behavior. Reluctantly, Ricky backs off but warns Andy that their conflict isn't over. After the incident, Andy slowly approaches Mary, hoping to kiss her. However, she has to leave quickly because her bus is waiting. They agree to meet later that evening after the talent show. Children are performing on stage as the scene switches to the talent event. Andy regrets not standing up for Stanley when Ricky sprayed him with water earlier and discovers him sitting by himself on the rooftop. After forgiving him, Stanley inquires as to whether their friend Morgan has attended the performance. Stanley is disappointed when Andy acknowledges that he hasn't seen Morgan. Stanley musters the bravery to perform in spite of this. Andy rides his bike to Morgan's house to convince him to come since he hasn't shown up. Morgan initially declines because he does not want to witness bullies making fun of Stanley. But after Andy insists, he consents to attend. When Stanley's performance begins, Ricky holds a tomato, planning to throw it at him. Andy notices and tries to dissuade him, but Ricky refuses to back down. With no other choice, Andy, furious, kicks Ricky, making him cry out in pain. Mr. Simon witnesses the scene but, surprisingly, doesn't reprimand Andy. Instead, he praises him for finally standing up to the bully. Ricky is then hurriedly taken out of the venue after Andy humorously tells the audience that Ricky is having stomach issues. With the stage cleared, Stanley begins performing his original song. Through his lyrics, he conveys a powerful message about holding on to dreams even during tough times and declares that he's no longer afraid of bullies. By the end of his heartfelt performance, the crowd erupts in applause and gives him a standing ovation. As summer break comes to an end, Mr. Simon announces to the class that he is moving to Florida. He shares that his time at the school has been the best of his life. The students are devastated but try to support his decision. Andy and Mary, now officially a couple, have been together for 5 weeks. Before the final dismissal, Mr. Simon hands Andy and Stanley their project assignments and tells them how proud he is to have been their teacher. Andy tries to convince him to stay, but Mr. Simon remains firm in his decision. The next day, Andy visits Mr. Simon at home for one last conversation. He asks why Mr. Simon paired him with Stanley for the project. The teacher explains that life is about timing, opportunities, and choices, and this was the perfect chance for Andy to make a meaningful decision. In the movie's closing scene, Andy reflects on losing touch with Stanley after he moved away during their sophomore year of high school. Andy, now a writer, describes how he uses his craft to honor people like Stanley. So, this was the movie named That's What I Am. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. Subscribe to my channel for more movie. Thank you everyone. Take care.